Greetings, Timeshare Traveler. It's a Timeshare Traveler here, episode 17, the Waterfall Hiking Trail in Branson, Missouri. Very close to town, a little hard to find, but I showed that in my first video clip. It's great for families, and it's a wonderful hike close into town, so I highly recommend it. Before I go into details of the hike, I'll tell you a little bit about my channel, and then I'll get back to it.
Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm your Timeshare Traveler. The goal of my YouTube channel is improving your timeshare travels. I'll do this through timeshare video reviews, tips for using timeshares, and much, much more. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, Twitter at Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com. And if you like my videos, don't forget to click subscribe below. Okay, here's the trailhead for the City of Branson Waterfall Hiking Trail. Just to let you know, it's right next to the Westgate Branson Woods Resort, and you park down below over here. So it takes a little bit to find the trail, but just park down there where you see the car backing out, come past the Westgate Branson Woods Resort, and you'll find the trailhead. So I'll take a few shots further in. Okay, further along the trail, sort of winding our way, you can still see parts of town. And we're kind of going, if you look through the trees here, there's a little creek. It's mostly dried up because we're in the summer, but hopefully there'll be a nice waterfall up ahead. Okay, now we're heading down into the woods, going down tree roots and rocks to gently set yourself down, but now you find yourself in a beautiful canopy of trees, and you can see water from the creek now. It's really enjoyable, much cooler than it is outside under here in the canopy of trees. Now we're walking along the trail, and just to the right you can see the creek. It's actually pretty dried up, so don't expect a lot of waterfalls, but it's still a beautiful hike here in Branson. The trail opens up now a little bit, but you're still in a nice canopy of trees. You can look above here. A little bit of water here and there, and you can see now the creek. You zoom in, you can see a little bit of water flowing along the creek. It's a nice quiet. I'm walking at just around noon and not very busy, so it's one of those secluded places that it's not a long hike, just 2/3 of a mile in and back out, but kind of a fun hike too. Okay, now you see a bunch of trees backed up, and I'm sure when the water is rushing quickly it's much more challenging to walk, but right now we're just sort of walking along the creek, and you can see it's really a creek with very slow moving, but again, I'm enjoying the canopy. So now I'm going to cross over, which is about a foot over, and walk down the rocks leading past the creek, and sends you up along the other side, following the trail. Continuing along, you can see the creek here over now on the left, wind out a little bit, and I'm following the trail along. Even though there's not many people on it, you can see the path is fairly well worn given the vegetation, so it must be quite a bit of travel over time. And again, nice canopy of trees. And continuing along the trail, kind of winds its way through here over some rocks, but it's a relatively easy hike, at least so far. Just go slow if you need to, but step over all the rocks. Again, continuing to follow the creek. And there's a little tiny waterfall here. Again, I think in the spring this would be a much bigger waterfall. As you can see, the water flowing down sort of terracing down to flow into that. And again, this is right in this, almost in this city of Branson, right in the heart of town, so it's not very far. This is a very short drive to get to it. Here's a view of the creek as it's coming down a steeper hill into that little waterfall that I showed you back and forth. So you can see a little bit more of it moving, and you can see kind of the sort of the lead up into the waterfall. But again, we're just moseying along, following the path underneath this beautiful canopy. It's really hot today, it's in the 90s, but under the trees it takes at least 10 degrees out of that. Really refreshing. And they found another person on the trail, and they got their dog in the water. That's what I'd be doing if I didn't want to have to hike out wet. A nice little stretch of sort of like a little pond along the river, a little creek. Continue on the trail. Again, it's a little rugged, just have to watch out for the roots, make sure you don't trip on them. And the creek is really shallow, but it's kind of cool. I like it. So again, underneath the trees, we continue on our trail. Okay, I just stopped here just briefly because every now and then you see a little bit of where the water comes down the hill, like here, and you sort of step across it because it's quite easy, but it rolls into the creek. So when it's been a rainy day, you can see a lot of water flows through this because we're kind of in a gorge surrounding Branson. A lot of hills in Branson, and so there's a lot of valleys. A little bit of water here that I'm stepping over and around. Glad it hasn't just rained. That might be a little bit more like a river. Continuing on. Continuing on up the trail. Roots are pretty exposed. We're slightly going up. I wouldn't call it a big incline, but a slow incline. And you can see again the creek on your left. And still in really short trees, but it's still a canopy. The creek being lit up by the sunlight coming through. And if you need proof that the trail passes close to the city, here you can see there are some hotel, condos, timeshare or something right along the trail. So it loses a little bit of its majestic value when you walk right by a giant building like this, but still, just to let you know, it's not far from anywhere, 2/3 of a mile. So it's really a nice, pleasant walk. Wanted to point out, continuing up there, but there's some rocks here along that the creek has sort of, over time, worked its way through. And a few flowers along the path. I'm sure there'll be more in spring. Continuing on up. Again, we're continuing along the trail, and again, it's continuing to go slightly up. And still under a nice canopy, so it's not anywhere near as hot as what it would be if you were outside under the sun. And kind of a nice rock formation here forming that you're walking almost under, and you're following it along. Kind of cool, kind of walking just underneath the roof of the rocks. Doesn't look like a lot of falling, so it looks fairly safe. And I'm moving along. Coming up to some more rocks, and it looks like we found the falls, which has not got much going on today, but it's got a little bit going on. So you can see some of the rock is falling off. But in general, you can walk to the falls. And I think I'm going to go across the creek here and up toward the falls. End of the trail. And they're not very high right at the moment.
You guys look up here.
But that's at the end, that's what you get. And there's a little pond, a little place to swim, and there's people in that right now. From this view, you can see that there can be actually quite a bit of water coming through here in a heavy rain. So if there was like a monsoon rain or something like that, there'd be quite a lot of rain, and they would close this trail, obviously. And you can see it actually going all the way back up as well. So it's quite a wide creek, and we're here in the summer, so it's not very deep, but it's also very easy to hike. Great family place to hike. Kids and dogs all over the trail and in the water, swimming and enjoying themselves.